Welcome to History Radio. This is the part 2 of the history of Nigeria from 1914 to the Civil War and beyond. For you to understand this part, you need to start watching from part 1. That is, if you have not. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel for more history. My name is Nse Victor King. Happy listening. The reason why they wanted to hand over this power to Obafemi Awolowo was because some of the coup plotters were very, very obsessed and they like the political ideology of Awolowo. So they wanted to let's give this man a chance. But before then,
and the plan was to favor Awolowo.
Awolowo, yeah. That's the military, the people who planned this coup. Now, there was what the
Awolowo didn't know this plan.
Awolowo was not even aware of what was going on. Now, the British there was something the British they conceived an idea of handing over power to the military, and they called it Nigerialization. So that was the initial plan. Should they hand over this thing to civilian? Will civilian be able to handle it, or should we hand over to the military? So they were conceiving it. So while they were conceiving that, it made many Nigerians to come into the military. But the issue was that based on qualification, because at that time it was really based on qualification, no chua. Now the number meritocracy. Now the number of the Southerners, especially the Igbos in the military, was like 60%, because a lot of them went to school. Southerners went to school compared to the Northerners, and just maybe the Southerners that were in the military were top-ranking officers. Now and you just had like 40% or thereabouts, that were Northerners now. And the thing is that since the Northerners were at the helm of affairs, what they now did was, by this time they've taken over Tafawa Balewa and the rest was, what they now did now, they started reducing the standard of qualification so that they can have more Northerners to join the army.
You see, when politics don't begin enter.
So, but what now happened was that we now had more Southerners in the military of higher ranking and more Northerners in the civil service and in politics. And now the problem was that anytime these two people clash, there will be a problem. So in 1965, a Southerner named Major General Aguiyi Ironsi from the eastern region commanded the entire Nigerian military. They were entering by merit, and a lot of them were schooled abroad and all that. So that was why they were coming in by merit. And Aguiyi Ironsi was the number one military man as at 1965. At that time, the Nigerian army had only 2 brigades and 5 battalions. Now, of course, I don't know. People may not understand why a brigade is bigger than a battalion. Brigade is like let's say 3,000 to 5,000 military men
under you.
Yeah, that's the battalion. That's the brigade. While a battalion is like maybe 300 to 1,000 soldiers. So we have battalions under brigade. So
those battalions go under the brigade.
Thank you very much. That's why you have a brigade. You be commanded by maybe a brigadier general. Then a battalion are those small other ones.
So get battalion general.
Now the first and largest brigade controlled the 3rd and the 5th battalion. It was commanded by Brigadier General Samuel Ademulegun, a Southerner from the west.
So where's the north?
The 2nd brigade, located in Lagos, was controlled by Brigadier Zakaria Maimalari, or the northern man.
The north now.
He controlled the 1st and the 4th battalion. Now, during the crisis of the western region at that time, that saw Obafemi Awolowo imprisoned, so there was an alliance between the federal government, like we said, the federal government and Ladoke Akintola, the faction of the Action Group at that time. So some soldiers, because of all those issues that was going on, not knowing that some soldiers started becoming political. So to make matters worse, the federal government now asked the 4th battalion, led by Lieutenant Colonel there was a man called Lieutenant Colonel Agbogo Lagema. I don't know if Nigerians have forgotten most of these names.
Agema.
Agbogo Lagema. So they sent him to go and quell, the crisis in the southwest at that time. But the officers from the south, among these military people, because they started becoming political, they started becoming sympathetic to the rioters.
To their people.
Because it was their people. Because they are from the south. The south now we allow Hausa on the doors anyhow. They became political. All those kind of things.
So the man now, the leader will lead that battalion now no fit succeed.
He couldn't control a lot of ensure all the military, because some of them they were taking sides, and
some of them will sabotage
his effort. And so they saw the southerners among the military now saw the leadership of the north and the imprisonment of Chief Awolowo as unjust, marginalization, blah blah blah, and all that. So one of these southern military officers that did not see, that did not find it comfortable the way the southern.
Now you see why they don't say obey the command, whether now your brother or not, that kind of thing. So far you wear that uniform, obey.
So one of the military officers that were not comfortable with what was going on in the country and was taking side with the south was a man called Major Kaduna Nzegu. He was so in love with the Chief Awolowo's political ideology, and so the plan for him was to seize power, release Obafemi Awolowo, like we said, and hand over power to him. But before this, he didn't even conceive it. He was not even one of the person that even started, this plan. These are contrary to many people's belief. Major Nzegu was not even the original person who conceived the coup. These are the names of people who actually conceived that coup. Major Emmanuel Ifejuna, Major Donatus Okafor, Major Christian Anuforo, Major Humphrey, and Captain Ogbonna Oji. These were the people who conceived this coup at first. So they were based in Lagos but stationed other coup conspirators in other regions, the north, the east, and so this was the reason why, because they wanted people to to represent them in other regions. That was the reason why Major Christian Anuforo had to bring his childhood friend Major Kaduna Nzegu into the plot.
So Nzegu not even the part of the plan. No even know it. They just bring and say, okay, my guy.
My guy. It was Anuforo that brought him into the plot. So Anuforo attended St. John's College in Kaduna, where he became close friends with Kaduna Nzegu. Nzegu was the chief instructor.
I don't forget saying Nzegu, he really know the Kaduna now because of say he did Kaduna.
Was living in Kaduna.
So they attach Kaduna to his name, Kaduna Nzegu. He really named that Nzegu.
Yeah. Now, Nzegu was a chief instructor at the Nigerian Military Training College then in Kaduna. Himself now, after they brought him into the plot, he now brought his another colleague, Major Adewale Ademoyega and Timothy Owatuegu to the deal. And these people were deadly in that coup. Now the three of them have served in the 5th Battalion in Kano before that time. But the coup plotters couldn't get someone, to represent them in the western region. So they tried as much as possible to recruit someone from the 4th Battalion in Ibadan, but it was unsuccessful. Now, they relied on Captain Wobosi, the commanding officer of the 2nd Field Battery in Abeokuta, to travel to Ibadan, to execute the plan. That he was also a former schoolmate of Nzegu and Anuforo. They also planned, in a way, the junior officer will be carrying out instruction, not knowing that they are actually, taking part in a coup. They're going to be telling you, do this, do that, and you will not know. Now, but when these junior officers planned this thing, they now discover that, these majors now discovered that their superior officers will not allow this coup to work.
Based on you get generals.
Yeah, the right of Ironsi will not allow this thing to work. So what they now do is that they say, okay, let the first of all take care of their senior officers. So they divided themselves into 4 units. Major Ifejuna led the Lagos operation with 22 soldiers. In his sight was the largest. The target was the Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, the supreme head of the military, Major General Agui Ironsi. So Ironsi was even among the people they wanted to kill too.
Their Oga,
they wanted to kill. the finance minister Festus Okotie-Eboh, they saw that one as the most corrupt politician at that time.
How about Okotie-Eboh get money that time?
Yeah,
if you see in wealth that time, see, because I remember Okotie-Eboh that time in Rapa. If you sell when they call in Rapa that time they long. I don't know that I don't see this Akwa Ibom, their traditional attire where the Rapa go long. Get them go come hold the Rapa, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So they have the Okotie-Eboh was among them. The army chief of staff that time, Mohammed Shua, commander of the 1st Brigade, Brigadier General Samuel Ademologun, commander of the 2nd Brigade, Brigadier Zachariah Memelari, commander of the 1st and 4th Battalion, some other top senior officers and military, and also Nnamdi Azikiwe. But at this time, Azikiwe was not in the country. He went for medical leave. That was why he escaped that coup. You know. Now, Major Nzegu and Owatuegu led the operation in the north. Their target was the premier of the northern region, the commanding officer of the 1st Brigade, the commanding officer of Nigerian Training College in Kaduna. You know, now Captain Wobosi led the operation in the west. You know, the target was the premier of the western region and his deputy. It was only the west that had a deputy premier. You know, at that time. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Jerome Oguchi, he was the one who faced the eastern region. They said you arrest Michael Okpara, the then person in charge of the
eastern
region. His name was Michael Okpara. That we keep hearing Michael
Okpara University
today. Now the decision to kill their target was at the discretion of the soldiers. That was what even made this into. That was what even brought the problem. Now when you hold your target, it is at your discretion whether to kill or not to kill, depending on the situation. So it can go backfire. Now Nzegu divided his troop into 3 parts, you know, since he was the one training his soldiers, and that time Nzegu was handling a kind of exercise, training his soldiers. They call it exercise Damisa. So since he was the chief instructor of the military college, can bring out soldiers anytime and nobody will raise any suspicion. So the officer didn't know that what was going on. They were just obeying orders. So in the early hours of that January that we talked about, January 15, 1966, Nzegu now turned Operation Damisa into a full-blown coup. So Major Nzegu, assisted by 3 northern sergeants, fired the Saudanas resident, saw him where he was hiding, and shot him dead. One of his bodyguard, the Saudanas bodyguard, the name of that man was called Zarumi after that, who had the gunshot when they were killing the Saudana. So he ran to defend his Oga now with a sword. He didn't even know that these people were soldiers. So when the soldiers saw him, they shot him and killed him. They also shot, I think one of the Saudana's wife, you know, and the Saudana senior assistant secretary to security, Ahmed Ben Musa, then heard the gunshot and went to verify. When he drove to the place, on arriving there, before disembarking from his vehicle to know what was actually going on, they shot him and killed him. Now, soldiers led by Timothy Owatuegu, you know, who went to Brigadier Samuel Ademologun's place, subdued him and the security guard, went into his bedroom, met him with his wife. Owatuegu opened the door and shot both of them dead. These people were going house to house, you know. Then they also killed the commanding officer of the Nigerian military training officer, Colonel Raf Shoyen, the was a Yoruba man. Now the 3rd group was also doing their own. They captured the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission so that nobody would talk anyhow on radio, and they captured once you capture the media. Now finished. Now, on the 14th of January 1966, the day before, while all this thing was going on, that was the 15th. But the day before that day, something happened.
That is on the 14th.
That's the 14th. The commander of the
January 1966.
Yeah. The commander of the 2nd Brigade, Brigadier Zachariah Memelari, was getting married, for the 2nd time after the loss of his first wife. So many of the top officers were in that party. That was where Agu Ironsi was and escaped.
I know, say you go on me to the Agu. One story.
They disappear.
I
tell you what they happen. Nobody disappear. So he was getting married for the 2nd time after the loss of his first wife. So the coup plotters also attended that party to avoid suspicion. So after the party, they had a meeting with after the party that day, they went to Major Emmanuel Ifejuna's house. Ifejuna told them the plans and and how they were ready. So they got to Onikan Runabout. in Lagos. No, that time everything was in Lagos, not Abuja. They went to Onikan roundabout, and Ifejuna divided the troops into 3 units. Now, Godfrey Ezedibu was charged with arresting Okotie-Eboh, the then finance minister that we talked about. Festus Okotie-Eboh was seen, of course, he was seen as the most corrupt politician at that time. Now, the second unit were like 5 NCOs. Some of these NCOs as the lower military ranks, officers. So these 5 NCOs were left, behind to watch the vehicle and ensure that no vehicle enter or leave that Onikan roundabout while the operation was going on. Just stay where you are. Now, between 3 a.m., Major Ifejuna himself led the 3rd unit to the Prime Minister's residence. They overpowered the police security and forced the ADC to lead them to where the Prime Minister was. When the Prime Minister opened the door, he found Major Ifejuna pointing a gun at him, and he was like, okay, what's happening now? Ifejuna now saluted him first, informed him that he was under arrest, brought him out, and now, by the time they got to their vehicle, the financial minister was already arrested and his hands tied. So Balewa was forced into the back of Ifejuna's car, while the finance minister was thrown into the back of one small pickup truck vehicle like that. And they drove to the senior officers' mess, which was the real place of the meeting of the coup plotters. Now, the Adjutant General resident, James Pam, called May Melari when he heard what was going on. He was hearing gunshots everywhere, and James Pam now called May Melari to inform him of what was going on. But May Melari too was also hearing gunshot at James Pam's residence.
So what did happen for your own place also?
So the soldiers overpowered Pam's security guard and went straight to Pam and arrested him in front of his pregnant wife. So May Melari was able to escape when they were having altercation between the security people and his security men and the soldier. That time they were saying, "Come inside, no come." The man took off. So he hid in the bush first and was watching this Major Okafor on his land, speeding up and down looking for him, looking for May Melari. So he tried to run to the Federal Guard barrack, which would have taken him like 11 to 15 minutes on foot to get to where he was. I saw Ifejuna, with his vehicle coming. Now he now thought, okay, this is my person, make I stop and I enter. So when he stopped Ifejuna now saw him, brought out his gun and shot him dead. And the Prime Minister was sitting at the back of Ifejuna's car watching what was
happening.
Now
the Prime Minister now who again?
Tafawa
Balewa.
Yeah. Now Lieutenant Colonel.
But Tafawa Balewa no fit do anything that period now.
You don't have a gun, no get.
Now they talk na person wey hold gun. Just a look.
The man was sure what was.
But they don't take over already be that. Because when you don't lose control, meaning the military take over be that.
Now there's another deadly guy among them too, called Major Anuforo. I think he killed Lieutenant Colonel Kom Mohammed, chief of the army staff. The chief of army staff was young military. They killed chief of army staff. And Lieutenant Colonel Otto Unegbe. Otto Unegbe was an Igbo guy. They still killed him. Because the problem was that Otto Unegbe, was the quartermaster general in the army headquarters. So he was the one in charge of giving logistics and all that. Now people said that the reason why they killed this guy was because he was very close to May Melari. And because he was, even being an Igbo guy, he was still close to the Hausa guy, and he was so loyal to May Melari, so he was not even interested in any coup. So the boys who were planning this coup saw Otto Unegbe as a threat, so they have to
eliminate him.
Now Lieutenant Colonel Agbogo Lagema, of the 4th Battalion, they were also guests at the wedding, and they lodged in one of the hotels after the program. So the coup plotters went to the hotel and asked the receptionist to call him out that he had a call. They pointed the gun at the receptionist, asked to call the guy out. They called the man out. So when he came out to come and receive call, on coming out, they shot him dead. They now went to the room of Lieutenant Colonel David Ejo. But by this time, when Ejo had the gunshot,
that was already funny way.
That one ran away.
Don't read.
Now, meanwhile, Agui Ronsi, after leaving May Melari's party, he went to another party. That he's a flexing guy. He went to another party at Apapa Wharf. So while he was in the party, that was when he now got the information of what was happening. Now, they now went to Agu Ironsi's residence. The coup plotters now went to Agu Ironsi's residence and pretended that they're coming to take over guard from these people. That you're on a duty, don't finish. We are going to take over
the next duty.
So, but those people were suspicious, of course. And this was the same thing they did at Melari's house.
When they take over,
when they want to take over
duty.
So it was. So when they went to that place, they now learned that these people were not agreeing. They down left. Because after that time, they said they didn't see Agu Ironsi.
They say no day around.
No day.
So
and
no
that's where you were hearing the issue of he used to disappear, they disappear and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, in Ibadan, plots led by Captain Wobosi was still going on. They arrived at the residence of the Deputy Premier, Chief Remilokun Fani Kayode, the father of FFK.
Remilokun Fani Kayode.
They arrested him. Now, when they took him out, the wife of the man, Kayode's wife, called the premier of the Western region, Akintola, him, informed Akintola of what was going on. Instead of Akintola to run, Akintola said he's prepared for them. So when the
military.
So when the coup plotters arrived, Captain Wobosi shouted and asked Akintola to deliver himself for arrest. But instead, Akintola brought out a shotgun and started shooting at the coup plotters. Injuring some of them at the process. So the coup plotters could not take hit from him. They overpowered him and Wobosi shot him dead. Now Major Ifejuna gave orders for the same thing to be done in the eastern part of the country, in Enugu and the Midwest. They arrested Dennis Osadebe, Michael Osadebe, and the then premier and of the Midwestern region at that time. Now they now brought all their captive, the other dead or alive, they brought them together and killed some of them that they wanted to kill and left some of them first. But when Ironsi finally returned from the party, he was now informed that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance had been kidnapped. So he rushed, to the barracks and began to start to looking for how to arrange things, And now Ironsi finally, saved the situation, because now he went to Enugu and now, called all the officers and was telling them nobody should be to take, instruction from anybody again. He now called. So, and even the junior officers, all this while, the coup plotters, they were even surprised that the Ironsi was still alive. When they saw him, they become intimidated. Why is it? That was where the issue of juju was coming from now.
Where this man don't the kisses. Don't the kisses. This man no even blood, one wound no even doing body.
So when Major Okafor arrived and discovered that his men refused to take orders from him anymore, Ironsi went to the police headquarters. But Major Ademoyoga just left there a few minutes earlier, because Oyoga went to that police headquarters and planted some soldiers for more coup to take place. So when Ironsi went to that place and saw those soldiers, asked them, what are you doing here? They couldn't explain themselves. Ironsi asked them to leave. So Ironsi now rushed to the headquarters of the 2nd Battalion and found some soldiers mounted at the checkpoint there.
Can't see people. What did they happen?
Find the party, maybe knows in the gun. So, and when he got to the headquarters of the 2nd Battalion and ordered the arrest of Major Ifejuna and other coup plotters, Ironsi began to place all the soldiers and kept them in key places for the coup not to continue. You understand? Begin to change a lot of things. Ironsi now sent Lieutenant Colonel Ejo to go to the eastern region and the midwestern region and do the same thing. Now, Nzegu was still in charge of the north. Not totally in charge. Now, the commanding officer of the 5th Battalion in Kano was Lieutenant Colonel Odumegu Ojukwu. He refused to cooperate with Major Nzegu.
Odumegu Ojukwu no agree with Nzegu with the coup.
Yes. So
was against the coup.
Now listen. On the morning of the coup, Ojukwu received a telegram informing him of this coup. So he quickly, what he did was that he quickly went and locked the armory and sent the keys to his relative who was living in Kano.
Because if that armory, then there is a
problem. So that was what Ojukwu did. So when Ojukwu now did that, Nzegu now asked Ojukwu to release funds for his soldiers so that they'll be able to, facilitate the whole thing. Ojukwu refused. And so Nzegu now sent one of his aides to go and meet Ojukwu at Kano. When the guy arrived in Kano, Ojukwu arrested him. Meanwhile, Major Anuforo were still trying to suppress soldiers loyal to Ironsi. You understand?
They still want to continue with
the coup. But at this time, they were already outnumbered because Ironsi had already put things in place. And they still had the corpse of some of the people they have killed. And they still had the Prime Minister alive. So when they now discovered that a lot of things is not... and they still have Okotiebo.
Minister of Finance.
Yeah. So when they now discovered that a lot of things have been spoiled, they now say we need to kill these people, make we run. Now, as they were going, that was where they killed the Prime Minister, and they also killed Okotiebo. And at the end of the day,
I remember the story of one of Okotiebo because say they just come that they carry him, Papa come out.
Yeah. So it was now clear to Major Ifejuna that the coup has failed, and that the GOC was still alive, mobilizing troops to quell the coup. So he now felt that there was no point in keeping the Prime Minister. That was why he killed the Prime Minister and Finance. Ironsi, by this time, when Ironsi has quelled the coup, now he was now advised by his officer to take over power, because that was the only way he could quell this thing and bring back sanity to the country. So he now had a meeting with all the council of ministers, and the ministers now, they said, okay, they agreed to hand over power
to the military.
To him. So before they remember, Nzego was still alive. Now Nzego now knew that Ironsi, in the first place, Ojukwu had dealt with him. So he now talked to Ironsi. That Ironsi will not even answer him. So what he had to do now was for him to negotiate, because Ironsi had given power that they should bring Nzego, whether dead or alive.
You won't see him.
Whether dead or alive. So Kaduna Nzego had no choice but to negotiate. So when they negotiated, they said, okay, don't worry, we'll give you soft landing. And they now later arrested him on the 19th. That was the 19th of that January. That was when they arrested Kaduna Nzego. Now Major Ademoyoga and Watuegu now returned to their place of work as if nothing happened after the whole thing. And after a few weeks, when they discovered that they were inside, they were arrested. Major Ifejuna now ran to Ghana and was received by President Kwame Nkrumah. He later returned to Nigeria unwisely for no reason, just stand up, come back.
Ifejuna no for an athlete.
He was an athlete now.
Don't forget this Ifejuna 9 day for our primary primary school notebook.
Yes.
One outlet like that. Where do backflip.
He's the one.
Where they for that one, where they blue. The notebook they blue. You go see about those 2B notebook.
So he later returned to Nigeria unwisely. On getting to Nigeria, he was arrested. And with the arrest of Major Kaduna Nzego and Ifejuna and all the top coup plotters, the coup was successfully crushed by Major General Agui Ironsi. And
Agui Ironsi became the first
military
head of state. Long. The matter long. It's
an amazing one.
Orokpo.
Osayi.
Meaning say talk plenty, but no time.